Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So for science, the science discovery box here, you use, this one doesn't have any of the reading, let me see. Science, they do once a week, if I remember right. Once, maybe twice a week. I think they consider this, they call this the rotating box, because if you notice, let's see, it changes each day. So they'll have, like on this day, Unit 21, Day 1, they do a dramatic play. So, and to be honest, we did not do those because my oldest daughter, who is the one who's doing this, she was 6.5 when we started first grade and turned 7 halfway through the year. I don't know, I think she was kind of embarrassed by doing those things. I don't know. She didn't seem to want to do that. But maybe my second daughter will. I'm not sure. But anyway, so this is the rotating box here. So you have dramatic play that day, and then you have the science discovery this day, and that day. So sometimes you do science twice a week, but not most weeks, I don't think. And then this one was the thinking games. And then this one is art. So like I said, this is the box that changes during the week. Each day is something different. And so if your kid really likes art, this is great because she tells you what kind of stuff you'll need, like what paper, markers, Play-Doh. I know that they make homemade Play-Doh in some years of Heart of Dakota. Different, different art projects and things. So that is really great. It's a very, very inclusive curriculum. The author, Carrie Austin, she really did a great job of incorporating a lot of different aspects of learning into this program. I really just love it. I can't say enough good things about it. But anyway, for the science, so since this book can be used for first or second grade, they have different options for science, just like with the Bible, the Bible storybook and the history books. But anyway, for kindergarten, this is the kindergarten book. It's called The World God Made, God's Creation Series. And it's also, it's Christian Liberty Press as well. So when my oldest daughter was in kindergarten, we used that book for her for kindergarten because, like I said, we chose not to use the guide to use during her kindergarten year. I basically just used the kindergarten options in the guide, and then did it myself. I didn't use the key ideas, and we didn't do any history for her for kindergarten. We saved all of this history stuff for first grade. But we did use the science option for kindergarten. We did that. And we did the fine motor skills option for kindergarten. And so basically we saved the history block for first grade and the Bible study because she integrates the scripture verses here. And then she has the key idea that would usually tie in with the history. And then this lesson doesn't have any music, but there is the Steve Green, Hide 'Em in Your Heart, Volume 1 is what you use for this guide. And so that would help your child to remember, to learn the scripture verse, because the song would correspond with the scripture for most weeks. Now this week obviously doesn't have that, but anyway, so we saved this Bible study part for first grade as well. And then the story time, we did that as well. And the reason I saved it is because you read your chapter here, but then it's got some retention questions and some narration so that your child can narrate back to you what they just learned. And I thought that was great. It's really, it's kind of setting the tone for them for the rest of their school year because there's a lot of narration with this curriculum because it's a Charlotte Mason type curriculum. Okay, so let me get back to science. I'm sorry about that. I'm kind of getting off on a rabbit trail. But anyway, so Our Father's World, you can see a little number 1 on the side. This is the first grade choice for science. So you have the kindergarten, the first grade, and that's what we used for my daughter. So we used this for kindergarten for her last year while we were kind of winging it ourselves. And what I learned though is since I did use this guide for first grade, the science book that they use in the guide where the plans are right here for you is actually The World God Made. So that is the kindergarten book. So with my second daughter, the lesson I learned is that I am going to use this book, Our Father's World, the first grade book. I'm going to use that for her for kindergarten. And then use the kindergarten book up here, The World God Made, for her for first grade, because it's the one that is scheduled in the guide. And that will help it tie back into history, because what you're reading down here in the science box usually corresponds with what's going on up here in the history box. And so it didn't correspond this year for my oldest daughter in first grade because we were doing this book. They have it scheduled back here in the appendix, but I noticed it just didn't seem to really line up as well with this is what I would have liked, and the key idea didn't really line up so much either. So I'm just going to switch them from now on for the rest of my kids. Lesson learned. I will use the first grade book in kindergarten when we're just winging it ourselves, and then I'll save The World God Made for first grade so that it can go along with the plans. But other than that, I mean, they're really good books. They have colorful pictures, and they have small chapters, very short, and activities that you can do or not do if you choose. This one obviously was learning about senses, sense of sight, and the sense of hearing. And then at the end of each chapter, there are retention questions. Let's see, yeah. Some little true or false questions, different definitions. But since we were not able to really follow along with the guide this year in science, because I, like a crazy person, I didn't really think, like at the beginning of the year when I noticed that, hey, my first grade book from the appendix is not really lining up, I didn't think to switch and use the kindergarten book up there. I don't know why, but anyway. So next year when we do, or I guess not really next year, but when my second daughter is in first grade and we use this, it'll be a lot smoother. So this one, they're really not that much different in size anyway, and the things that they talk about, it's not like using the first grade book for kindergarten is going to be a challenge or way over my daughter's head or anything like that. So I think that'll work great. So that is history and science. And then for the Bible study, you need a Bible, an actual Bible this year. They use the Bible storybook for history. So you're learning about history starting at creation. And so for the Bible study portion, you'll need an actual Bible. So when my daughter entered kindergarten, my first daughter, that was the year we started phonics for her. So we decided to get her a real Bible. So she graduated from her little Bible storybook that she would take to church to a real Bible. And we like the ESV, the English Standard Version by Crossway. And so we got the children's Bible. And I really like this a lot. It's I like how each chapter is a different color. So for a little child who's first learning how to use a Bible, it has been very helpful for her to be, for us to be able to teach her, okay, you've got your book, and then you've got your chapter and your verses. So it's really helped her learn how to use her Bible. And besides that, it's got some beautiful artwork, just great. And so she enjoys looking at the pictures and reading the descriptions down here, and then she also enjoys being able to look up here and find her memory verse each week. So for the Bible study topic or box, each week they learn a new memory verse, or like here they're learning 2 verses. And so they learn their verse each week, and then they have like a key idea where they're talking about the scripture, how it ties into the history portion. And then also, kind of like science, once a week, and occasionally it would be more like twice a week, but usually once a week, they have, besides reviewing their memory verse they're learning, they will have a text connection for devotions for the children's hour. So that is the devotion book for Little Hearts for His Glory. And once again, I have the older edition, but I guess because this is the older copy of the teacher guide, it worked just fine. And so it's really good too. They have different chapters and devotions. And then at the end of each short devotion, they have some retention questions, and there's like a section from the Bible that you can read. And it's a little prayer you can do in a song. We usually would just do the devotion, read it, and then we would just answer the questions, or have my daughter answer the questions and talk about it a little bit. And so we really enjoyed this book as well. So that's for the Bible study section. And then once again down here, the Hide 'Em in Your Heart, Volume 1 for this guide. Now next year in the Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory book, which we're going to be using for 2nd grade, she will use Hide 'Em in Your Heart Volume 2 to go along with the memory verses that she is learning. So that has been really great too. She enjoyed getting to listen to the songs and stuff. So now moving on to the Fine Motor Skills page or box. This box is either fine motor skills or handwriting. Well, I guess it's more like, I guess you could call it fine motor skills or thinking skills, either one. But for this box, let's see, 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Well, that's how we did it anyway. You know, day 1, day 3, and day 5. You do your thinking skills books or fine motor skills. And so when this guide was published, this, like I said, this is the first edition, I believe. They used a different book that is out of print now, so they don't, in the newer guides, this is updated, and what they use is the Rod and Staff ABC books again. So that is why I went ahead and used the Rod and Staff ABC book for preschool, because, you know, we're already familiar with it from using it now. So if you use Little Hearts for His Glory for 1st grade, the books that you're going to be using are, let's see, it's up here. I think I showed them to you already, but you're going to be using Do It Carefully and Finding the Answers. You'll use those 2 books during the school year. You only do them 3 days a week, so that's how they're able to stretch it out that long. So that's why I was excited to be able to just use this for preschool. So then she will be using them for 3 school years. Our kids will. And my second daughter was the only one who had used any of these Rod and Staff books, the ABC books for preschool. But I'm definitely planning on doing that from now on. We have 5 children altogether right now.
Mama.
But not now. But for 1st grade, that was for kindergarten that you use the Do It Carefully and Finding the Answers. And then for 1st grade, you use, go and play, girls.
You're trying to make the books for them.
Okay, go play. Okay, so sorry about that. So for 1st grade, you tell your kids to go play, be quiet, Mama's making a video. They don't listen, but anyway, there's a book catastrophe apparently. Anyway, for 1st grade, you use now, in the newer editions of the guide, like I said, because I've got the old guide, Going On Eagerly and Just Thinking and Choosing. This is the 1st grade books. And these are used 3 days a week, like I said. And these are, she and my daughter totally love these. She enjoyed them so much. She had used, when we did kindergarten, like I said, we sort of did our own little thing without a guide for kindergarten for her. But like I said, we used the kindergarten options from the guide. So she was familiar with the Do It Carefully and Finding the Answers. That's what she did for kindergarten. And so when she found out we would get to use these for 1st grade, she was very excited because she just loves them. But anyway, let's see. This one doesn't give a description about like what each one is for. Like with the other one, you know, they learn their letters and they're learning their numbers and all that stuff. But anyway, these are just thinking skills, I guess. Different activities on each page. A lot of cutting and pasting and patterns. They do a lot of patterns in these books, you know, like, okay, what comes next? And each of these books, the Going On Eagerly down to Learning More and More, they all focus on like a part of the world, which was really cool. Going on Eagerly is the first one. This focuses on polar areas. So that was really cool for her to learn about, Antarctica and the Arctic Ocean. So they learn where that takes place, where the polar areas are on our globe. And then they focus on different animals that reside in that area. So the whole book, throughout the whole book, they're learning, like right here, they're learning about the seal and walruses and Arctic fox and Arctic owl. And she loved that. I mean, she just thought it was great. She loves all the cut and paste, and there's some coloring and such. And then the Just Thinking and Choosing. Like I said, you just use these 2 books for the whole year since you only do them 3 days a week. This one is the Just Thinking and Choosing. It's the 4th one. I don't have any experience with the others because they're not used in Heart of Dakota, so we just haven't used them. But this one focuses on mountainous areas. So at the beginning of the book, they have the little globe, and it shows you where all the big mountain regions are, or mountainous areas around the globe. And so you're supposed to identify them by coloring them. And then you start learning about different animals that reside in the mountains around the world. And so, let's see. Like this, you're cutting and pasting, filling in the blanks, some coloring. This does a lot of patterns and like what comes next type things. It's just to get them to think, there's the chicken or the hen, and so what comes next is what that was about. And it's also helping them with their fine motor skills of cutting and pasting and some more mountain stuff. But anyway, my daughter loved this. She loves the cutting and pasting, and she likes to be challenged with like the thinking stuff. So she really, really enjoyed that. So that was for this box. And then story time. I know in the most recent guide they have a different book. This is the book set that was in this first edition for story time. Like this one, you're supposed to be reading The Adventures of Chatterer the Red Squirrel. She tells you what chapter and pages to read, and then there's discussion questions to help them learn the narration, like I said, and then a key idea that just kind of sums up what that chapter was about. And so for what we had this year, we had The Adventures of Chatterer the Red Squirrel, Reddy Fox, Peter Cottontail, Danny Meadow Mouse, Grandfather Frog, and Buster Bear. And these are all Thornton Burgess books. And then also in the guide, we used Favorite Uncle Wiggily Animal Bedtime Stories and Peter Rabbit's and 11 Other Favorite Tales by Beatrix Potter. And so now I think maybe they don't use this one, the Favorite Uncle Wiggily Bedtime Stories. I think maybe it went out of print. So now they use, I can't remember which one they use in the guide. I don't know. They use another one of the Burgess books because there's like a whole other box set, at least one more that you can buy. So they use one of those. But at any rate, you can purchase that from the Heart of Dakota's website. But since I have the first edition, this set that I have here is the ones that are scheduled in the guide, so I haven't had to use anything different. So that's been great. And my daughter loves, loves, loves the Thornton Burgess books. We have another box set. It's Old Mother West Wind, the Old Mother West Wind box set. And so, like I said, for kindergarten last year for her, since we were piecing things together, I went ahead and got that set to read for her for story time, just to get her used to hearing the Thornton Burgess books. Because they are written, a little over 100 years ago, and so they have a little bit different language than what we use and different way of talking. And so I kind of wanted her to get used to that. I think it did help her because this year it wasn't such a shock hearing it, like what are they talking about? And so she was really able to narrate and answer the questions really well. Okay, so the next box is phonics, and this would be one area that we do differently, that we have modified and used our own. And I forgot to bring my phonics book, but anyway, we use The Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading by, Jessie Wise and Sarah Buffington are the authors, and that's published by Peace Hill Press, I do believe. And so that's a pretty long book. It had 231 lessons, and it is phonics based. And I tell you what, it worked great. My daughter learned to read very well. Since it is so long, we used it over 2 years. We started it in kindergarten, and so, like I said, that's when she got her own little Bible, just to kind of make it exciting. Like, oh, you're learning to read, and now you've got a big Bible, a grown-up Bible. So we used that over 2 years, kindergarten, and we finished it up this year for first grade. So we're done with our phonics instruction, and so she's able to read, the stepping into reading type books. And so next school year, when we start the Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory guide for second grade, we'll be doing the emerging reader set for her in that guide. But anyway, she recommends Reading Made Easy in the reading lesson. And that's what she recommended back in this first edition of the guide, and I'm pretty sure that's what she still recommends. And also, I think she recommends sound bites reading, which I'm not really familiar with that. But so we modify that. So we don't even do this box because we had our own phonics program that we use. And then we get down to math. So this is, like I said, the learning the basics. So that's going to be your language arts and math side of the guide. We, for kindergarten, we used what they recommended because, like I said, we did our own thing for kindergarten using the options that they recommended for kindergarten in this guide, but we saved the guide for first grade. So we used back when this was published, they used Early Bird Kindergarten for Singapore math, but that's out of print, I believe. So now they recommend Essentials Kindergarten. So for my oldest daughter for kindergarten last year, that is what we used. And it just was not a fit for us last year. I didn't feel like there was enough instruction. I don't just love math. And so I just kept being, worried, like, oh my goodness, when my daughter gets older, when my kids are older, how am I going to do this? Because Singapore math was written for a classroom setting, and I guess they just don't need a lot of instruction on how to teach because they went to school to learn that. And I'm just not a math fan. So, I don't know. Kindergarten was a challenge for me to I felt like I was going to be wording something incorrectly and teach my daughter to do it incorrectly. So I was a little concerned. But then for first grade this past school year, I thought, well, I'll get the home instructor guides and we'll be able to do the Singapore Math 1A and 1B. So we started out the school year with that, and I got the home instructor guides you can get. And I ended up still hating it and just feeling like the instructor guide it was very wordy, the stuff that I needed to read for each week or each lesson, I guess. And I just thought, man, it's given me some ideas, but I guess I wanted something a little bit more scripted or whatnot. I don't know. But anyway, we did that for the first 2 weeks of school, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I got to find something new. So I started doing some research. I'm figuring out, okay, what do I use? And I talked to my mom because my mom homeschooled for 21 years, and I actually graduated from being homeschooled. So I was thinking back on the things that we used when I was in school. And one of those things was Math UC. And my mom, she really liked it. I had a younger brother who just graduated actually a couple years ago, and I believe she used that for him. So we use Simply Charlotte Mason as well, which I'll talk about that here in a second for a couple things, or one thing. And she recommends Math UC. So I'm like, okay, so she's, a Charlotte Mason, expert pretty much. And this is what she recommends. And my mom liked it. And so I did some looking around on Kathy Duffy reviews as well. And that's when I first learned that there's a spiral way of learning and a mastery approach. I didn't even realize that. And so to me, I thought the mastery approach, I don't know, in my opinion, it does seem more logical to me. But anyway, so we ended up going with Math UC. And it was a wonderful year of math for my first grade daughter. Really, really good. So I got the instructor manual and the DVD used on eBay. So I was able to save some money. And I think maybe I paid like $25, $30 for that. I can't remember exactly. And then I ended up buying the student pack. So for Math UC, the student pack includes the workbook and a test book. So this is the instructor pack. This is what you get, the guide and the teacher guide and the DVD. And that's another thing that really drew me to Matthew C. was having the lesson. So there's actually a teacher who teaches your child the lesson up on a whiteboard. And that really was great for my daughter. She really picked it up well with that. And then they have the workbook. So we would do one lesson per week. So we would do like all of lesson 10 in a week. And let's see. So there are 10A is lesson practice, 10A and 10B and 10C are all lesson practice. So on those 3 pages, all you're doing is the problems that you learned that week in your lesson. And then 10, the letter D, so 10D or 20D or whatever, that is systematic review, and so is letter E, and so is letter F. And so that systematic review, you're reviewing things that you've learned all the way from the beginning up until your lesson right there. And then the last page here, 10G, is application and enrichment. So this is kind of like fun activities that's also reinforcing the things they're learning. And then there is a test. And the test is over things that they have learned the whole, all the way up until where they're at in the book. And then for for lessons 1 through 10, there's a unit test also. So you have your test for each lesson, which we would do 1 lesson per week. And then you had a unit test. I didn't always do the unit tests. This first one I did. This was over everything they've learned so far. So as you can see, like she only did through number 12 or 13, and then she didn't do this. I didn't always require her to do the unit test because she's first grade, so that's a lot of junk, a lot of problems. I was pretty heavy on the math problems in her workbook over here, so I figured on Friday I'd give her a break. So what we would do, usually I had her do 2 pages a day. So we did 10A and B on Monday. And then we did 10C and D Tuesday, E and F Wednesday, G Thursday, test Friday. And if we ended up like missing a day of school that week, I didn't cram all of that in. I did as much as I could, or had her do as much as she could, I guess I should say. So with my first daughter, she really enjoyed math. And if you don't know about Matthew C., they have manipulative blocks. So they look similar to this. I should have brought those with me, I guess. Each block, like this is the 5 block, and then there's a 3 block. Each block is a different color, and so your child learns to memorize them. Like the unit block, which is just 1, is green, and then 2, well, I don't remember, 2 I think is yellow, 3 is orange. I think that's how it goes. So they really get to memorize what, the colors of the blocks. But having those manipulatives, plus, somebody teaching it on DVD for her, Mr. Demi, and then having all of this, all of these problems to really review, she really did great. Now, I don't know if maybe she seems to be pretty strong in math because she really didn't have a whole lot of trouble. So with my second daughter, I have no idea if it's going to be that easy for us or not, but I really liked Matthew C. So Alpha is first grade, so we are going to continue that. They have a kindergarten math, which is the primer, and so that's what we're going to be using for my second daughter this coming year for kindergarten. And I will do a separate video here before too long to show what we're going to be using for kindergarten and second grade. So my younger 3 kids, they're not school age yet. I contemplated putting my third daughter in preschool this year, but I just don't want to push her. She's still young, so we're going to hold her off till next school year when she is just turned 5 before we start preschool for her. But so anyway, in the teacher guide for Little Hearts for His Glory, I forgot to show that. On the fine motor skills box, like I said, you do the rod and staff books 3 days a week. And then the other 2 days, they do handwriting. And so they either do a reason for handwriting or Getty Dubay italic. And so I didn't choose either of those. So that was another thing I sort of modified and did my own. The handwriting, phonics, and math are the things that I have modified and chosen to do a little different than what they recommend. What we chose to do this year, for the first time, like I said, we had used handwriting without tears for my first daughter in preschool and kindergarten both, and I just kind of was getting tired of, I didn't like the way that they formed their letters. They used the wooden blocks in handwriting without tears to make it kinesthetic friendly, and that's great, but I just didn't like how it was ending up forming the letters. I don't know, I'm more traditional, I guess. So I looked into Charlotte Mason, or simply Charlotte Mason, and they have a child's copybook reader. And so there's 3 volumes. These are by Sonia Schaefer, and you can get these on her website, simplycharlottemason.com. And since my daughter already knew how to write, she already knew how to print from her 2 years of using handwriting without tears, we skipped the delightful handwriting book that Simply Charlotte Mason has and went on to these copybook readers. And all it is, they're copybooks. So what they do at the beginning, there is, a poem to read, and then so that's how they're practicing their reading, and then they're practicing their handwriting by doing a bunch of copy work. And so I would usually have my daughter on our handwriting days, which were 2 days a week, Tuesday and Thursday. I would usually have her do 2 pages, two whole pages of this. All I did was took how many pages of handwriting there were in these 3 books and divided it by how many days we're going to be, having handwriting scheduled in our guide. And so that's how I came up with the 2 days a week. And like this one was bigger, she would read this whole poem. Well, this is the beginning of this one, The Frog on the Well. So she'd read this stanza of a poem. Hold on, buddy. And then do her handwriting. And at the very end, after she had finished copying it, she would read it again, the whole poem, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, at the very end, there's like a place, where is it at? Well, yeah, right here. So then the whole entire poem is listed, and then they could read the whole thing. So each volume, the first volume starts out on 3 lines, or having the 3 lines for them to practice. And then by the second volume, it is just 1 line underneath that they write on. So the middle line and the top line are gone. And that is also how the 3rd volume is. So it has a lot of poems and scripture. Those are the things that they are copying. And that is why I liked it, because it's classic poetry and scripture. And so it's really great things for her to be copying. And here, this is the end. That's what I thought. So the 2nd and 3rd volumes have just the bottom line. The 1st volume starts out with the 3 lines, but towards the end, they remove the middle line and they just have the top and bottom line. So they kind of progressively make it a little more challenging for them. So anyway, this is our 1st grade handwriting, a child's copybook reader. And so that is what we did this year for preschool for my 2nd daughter and 1st grade for my oldest daughter. And like I said, let me turn this around. I will do a video of our 2nd grade and kindergarten curriculum choices here before too long for the 2017-2018 school year. But I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that maybe if you hadn't really known much about Heart of Dakota or any of these other things like Matthew C. or Simply Charlotte Mason, I hope that maybe this was a little informative for you and maybe gave you some ideas and encouragement. But anyway, I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.